overseas to show people. I realized Islam wasn't for me. I started talking to other ex-Muslims. It was a world that I didn't even know existed. I started learning more about them. I started reading books. I started reading The Atheist Muslim. I started reading Richard Dawkins' books. I even started reading more of the Quran to understand why there were ex-Muslims. I started finding...
Did you notice how she said, I started reading more of the Quran? And this is after she said she read Richard Dawkins' books. Notice if she was grounded, why is she saying, I started reading more of the Quran? So it seems to me that she already had doubts, and she really didn't know much about the Quran, but she later read more about the Quran. And again, it goes to show that she wasn't a fully practicing Muslim. And as doubts crept in, she then started researching a bit more into the Quran, which goes to show that she wasn't really grounded in the faith. She really didn't research her faith before she even accepted it.
Verses that basically would talk about peace and tolerance, but then there were so many verses that would contradict them. And then I went on, because there were so many hadiths that I wasn't exposed to as a Shia, I went on reading all about the Sunni hadiths, and all of them just validated my ideas on what I thought about Islam. A big part of me already knew that my values would never coincide with Islamic values, and it took a few friends to show that to me, or to snap me back and let me know that, hey, Zara, you're not actually a Muslim, are you? And I kept countering it, and I'm like, no, I believe in God, and I believe in Muhammad doing the right thing. And they had some pretty interesting questions, which were, then why are non-believers condemned to hell? Or why did Muhammad marry Aisha?
Yes, so are you noticing? So she's starting to spill the beans here. Before it was like, these are the reasons why I left Islam. And it's like she genuinely left Islam, but she didn't genuinely leave Islam. It was more or less that people were coming up to her and throwing her these questions. And it's not like she studied the Quran and said, oh, look, there's a verse there, or there's a hadith there that proves that Islam is wrong, and she just started going into depression. She started sitting in her room. She isolated herself from her family. And no, but it was like I said, she went through all these other Shia beliefs and traumas, and later on she started just using other examples and excuses. And it wasn't because of her own finding and her own research. It was because anti-Islamists were just bringing her questions about Islam.
Why is there multiple gods? Why are Christians and Jews wrong? Why are you lucky to be born in the religion of Islam?
Why are there multiple gods? Well, why are there multiple different ideas about, philosophy or human evolution and cosmic evolution? Why are there different, ideas about democracy and secularism? Why is there different? There are so many different theories on politics, economics, morals, but you seem perfectly content studying them all and choosing the one you think is true. Only when it comes to God, all of a sudden your brain conveniently shuts down. She spoke about why do unbelievers go to hell. Allah answers that. Allah says, if we sent you back to the earth and we told you to, and we sent you revelation, Allah says you'll do the same thing, you'll repeat it. And I believe Brother Asadullah made this point to Zara Kay, that you'll repeat the same sin. You'll go back to your disbelief, even if Allah gave you another chance. And because your sin is not limited, then hellfire is not limited to you, because you will do the same thing. If Allah says He sent you 100 times back to the earth, you'll still go back to disbelief. And some atheists say, oh, well, how can I go back to disbelief after seeing God? I'm not saying you need to see God. Let's say that you died as a disbeliever and God just sent you back to the earth to see whether you're going to be a believer again. He put you through the same process, you're born through your mother and so forth, and he sent you back through someone else. You'd still go back to being a sinful person. Allah says that about the disbelievers, and because He's all-knowing. And so because your sin is something that you've chosen as an everlasting thing for yourself, then the punishment for that is also everlasting. I mean, what do you want? Do you want to go to heaven for your disbelief? Is that what you want? You want that reward? Now that doesn't make sense as well. And Allah says that in the Quran. He says if we had sent them back, they'll return back to their sin. They'll still return back to their denial. No matter what evidence. Allah says in the Quran, there's a beautiful verse that He says, if we showed them every sign, if we made the dead talk, if we sent them the angels, they'll still disbelieve. And the interpretation of this verse is that, of course an atheist might say, well, if God sends me an angel, how can I disbelieve? Well, you will, because you'll probably say it's not really an angel from God, it's just an alien from a different existence. Well, why does it have to be God? If the dead started talking, they'll probably say it's just a natural phenomenon that we can't really explain. It doesn't have to be God. So Allah says they'll keep making excuses just to deny. And that's the nature. That's the nature of the atheists.
Why are other people following different religions? Why are people falling out of religion? And all this...
That doesn't make sense. The religion of Islam must be wrong, because why people, why there are other religions? Well, there are other ideas of evolution as well. Does that mean evolution is wrong? There are other ideas of, morals. Does that mean your moral is wrong? There are different ideas on... She said, why does people fall out of religion? That must prove that... religion must be wrong. Well, there are people who are accepting religion. Does that now mean it's right then? So what are these primitive, unsubstantiated arguments? I mean, is this your logical reasoning? Really?
And all these questions made me think more about what I wanted out of life and what morality was. Because if it's moral to be with a 6-year-old, I don't accept that. And if it's moral to kill people who are gay for the choices they don't have, being gay is not a choice. And that has been proven by science.
That's actually a lie. There are academic references, and I'll put a link below this video where a gay person who was brought up as a homosexual under strong therapy has actually left his homosexual tendencies and is married and he's got kids. So this lie that was put forward by academics, usually from gay homosexual academics, that it's not a choice. It's not a choice, and therefore it's illogical that God could, condemn a person. This is not true. The interesting thing is, her secular society also condemns people who are actually, they're actual pedophiles. And they actually say that they don't have control over it, meaning that it's innate within them. Are you going to now blame secular liberal laws and say, oh, why is it condemning this person for having such feelings? Why doesn't it allow, as long as it's consensual, with say a 40-year-old man and a 18 or 16-year-old? And by the way, in the UK, 16 is the law for marriage. That's the law for consummation. Marriage is 16 in the United Kingdom, but she still can't get married to a 40-year-old man. And if they do that, this is pedophilia. If he says that he has pedophilic tendencies, you're not going to cater for that just because it's innate. And there are now academic references saying that it is now a natural tendency. So are you going to now turn around and say, well, why does my secular law disallow that? Is secularism not wrong now? So are you going to leave secularism because it's innate? So even if something is innate, it doesn't mean it's true. Anyone, even if science claims it's innate, it doesn't mean it's true. And even if it is true, it doesn't mean that they don't have strong therapy lessons to control those desires and to change those desires. And academia has proven that it can.
I was in a position where there was so much hate filled in Islam, and I couldn't be a part of it. And that's when I decided to renounce Islam and learn more about it anyway, so that when I do speak up about it, I had some evidence and backing, which I'll probably be linking to on this video. But for the biggest part, it was very much to do with the anti-women and the anti-gay support that the anti-women and the anti-gay support that Islam had given.
Notice, so it wasn't really about there not being proof for God. I thought that would be the biggest reason why you left Islam, because there's no proof for God. But the biggest problem for her was homosexuals and anti-women. I mean, really.
To Muslims, I think religion at large makes you do bad things and justifies it, while you can do so much good outside religion.
She says you can do so much good outside religion. Did you know that atheists, even when it comes to charity, and I'll put a hyperlink below this video, that atheists, if you're an atheist or don't believe in God, you're less charitable. Did she mention that? No. So religious people tend to give more towards the poor and are more charitable than non-religious people or atheists. It's an academic research, it's done, it's proven, and I'll put a hyperlink below this video. These atheists, these secularists who are all anti-religion, one of the reasons why we actually live in civil societies, one of the reasons why we're here is because the founding religions, whether it's Christianity or Islam, has made or protected civilization for such a long time. Yes, there were wars, yes, there were interfaith wars and things like that, but they live in predominantly religious societies, right? And these atheists act like if we remove religion, then we're going to be better off. And they always point to the West and say, look how good the West is, and look how prosperous the West is. Well, the West is like that because it's predominantly Christian. These are God-fearing people. These are people who don't want to murder people. These are people who don't want to kill people. These are people, there were studies showing that an atheist has actually said that, the reason why he murdered these people or he killed these people, I think it was Jeffrey Farmer, I can't remember his name. I'll put a hyperlink, I'll get the research paper and I'll put a hyperlink below this video. And he basically said there's no consequences. He doesn't believe that there are consequences on the day of judgment. So he thought that, there's nothing wrong with killing people. even if there is something wrong with killing people, he doesn't care, because at the end of the day, there's no consequence, there's no day of judgment. So that's a really scary thought to have. So, I love it when, the secular atheists say, religion is there to control people. But okay, religion is there to control people. When I became religious, and I lived a life of secular liberalism. I lived a life of atheist too. And I'd be honest, I'll tell you right now that I've done sins. I've done some, I wouldn't call them really bad sins. It's not like I've murdered anyone. But I would have lied to people. Maybe when I was a lot younger, I probably, I don't know, bullied a kid at school. I've done things like that. Did I steal candy from a bar? Maybe I did. But when I became religious and when I became a Muslim, I stopped all of those things. I've stopped a lot of the bad things that I used to do, where I used to, do some bad things. And so, can I now say, well, now that's evidence that religion has helped me become a better person? You'd say, well, no, because as an atheist, you can also do those things. You don't need religion to do those things, to be a good person. Well, I could say the same thing about atheism. I could say, well, I really don't need atheism to become a good person either. I could still remain a Muslim to be a good person. But you may say, well, your moral values are different. But I could say, well, your moral values are different than mine. It doesn't make your one right and my one wrong. And you may turn around and say, well, you believe in, things that contradict to mine. Well, I could say you believe in things contradict to mine. And so we may disagree on moral values. It doesn't mean that my religion is wrong based on that. I could say your philosophy is wrong. You may say, well, that belongs in the ancient times. And I may say, well, truth doesn't have an expiry date now, does it? So it's basically a circular reasoning when they even bring out moral values. But let me tell you this, folks. Let me tell you this. I would rather, if I was to trust someone, if I was to trust him with my money, and by the way, religious people have shown to be untrustworthy. I'm not saying they're all trustworthy. But if I was to choose between a person that's religious with my money and an atheist, I would rather believe in trusting a believer than an unbeliever, because at least a believer believes that there's a day of judgment and there's consequences. Now, an atheist may believe in consequences too, but he only believes in consequences in this earth. If the law enforcement could get a hold of him. But if there's no law enforcement and he doesn't get caught, then he doesn't believe in the day of judgment. So a Muslim always has one degree. A believer also has one criteria over the atheist in preventing him from cheating that person. So an atheist may say the only thing that could prevent an atheist from cheating is he may fear the law. But the Muslim fears the law as well, but he also fears the day of judgment. So that's two things that could prevent him from, sinning. Which means that I would rather put my faith in a believer than an unbeliever. So how can you then turn around and say that religion is evil? And if you have a look really rationally, it is religious people who have probably contributed more harmony into society than unbelievers. Harmony, peace, and security. That's on a general basis, of course. I mean, look at what they're doing to the Uyghur Muslims in China. The persecutions, so many stories are coming out from there, how they're persecuting the believers, the communist Chinese what are they, communists, atheists that don't believe in God, and see how they've set up almost like concentration camps there, re-educating the Muslims and persecuting them and kidnapping them from their families, organ transplants, killing them for their organs. There's so many documentations that are going on. These are from unbelievers. In fact, I will put a hyperlink below this video and you'll compare Sharia countries, go look at statistics and compare it to Western world where, the secularist world where there isn't much religion. There is, but compared to the Muslim world, and you'll see the statistics, how they vary. You look at even rape, for example. You look at rape, majority of the rape that exists is happening in the Western worlds. The top, I think, 7 or 8 countries, the highest rape statistics happen in the Western world. And then you're criticizing and saying, religion is evil, religion is bad. Again, I'll put a hyperlink below this and you can see it for yourself. Rape, something that she constantly brings up, Zara Kay. Go have a look. Go have a look at the statistics. Compare it to the Muslim world. Do your research. Compare all your statistics and see which one is worse. Look at rape. Look at robbery. Look at murder. Go through all of the statistics. I actually like to mention this because I think it's worth mentioning. About the, there was a statistic analysis done about prisons, and it mentions that Christians make up majority of the prison population, and, secularists try to run with this and say, look, doesn't mean because your religion, because of religion, majority of them are Christians who end up in these prisons compared to atheists. But you actually look at the statistics and it's really, really spewed up, only because the statistics don't say that they're devout Christian, and they may just be Christian by name, and we see a lot of that. Even in the Muslim world, you're usually Muslim by name and not practicing. Like Zara Kay, she probably wasn't a practicing Muslim, more by name or by culture. She just had an identity. And so I don't really look at that particular statistic and say, look, because of, because Christians make up majority of the numbers in US prisons, this proves, if you're religious, then you tend to do more crime. I can guarantee you that a scholar of Islam is not robbing a 7-Eleven. Okay, you go look at who's robbing those 7-Elevens, and you'll see that they have a disattachment to their religion, a disattachment to their mosque and worship. And I'm pretty sure Zara Kay is old enough to know that.
And it's not limited to religion. This is a very short video on why I left. Obviously, the podcast that I have had with secular jihadists and Atheist Republic have it in more depth, so go check that out. I'll link that to it. Feel free to post up any questions or follow me on Twitter. Do check out Faithless Hijabi. It's a platform where ex-Muslims share their story and educate other people on their experiences, what they thought about Islam, and very similar to what I have recorded in this video, the doubts we have before we left religion. But this is my short video. She goes, these are the doubts we had before we left religion. No, I think you've left religion a lot earlier, but you've just added other excuses to justify why you think you've left Islam. And by the way, guys, let me tell you, to conclude with this, just because they claim they're an ex-Muslim does not mean that they're saying the truth. Okay? Similarly, if you're an ex-wife of a person, of a husband, it doesn't mean what you say is true about your husband. It could just be lies. And just because you're an ex of something, it doesn't mean what you're saying is actually validated
and true. So that's it. Thank you for listening. I know it was very long, but you got to understand that it needed to be broken down into, and I hope you've actually enjoyed. Please share this video and subscribe if you haven't, and please read the links that I've put forward. Again, if I actually had to go through all the links, this probably would have been more than a 2-hour video, because you got to understand that if you're going to bring a lot of points which need depth analysis, she may turn around and say, "Oh, that's just mental gymnastics." That's them saying, "I don't want to listen, and I don't want to understand," and so they'll just taint it as mental gymnastics of way of avoiding the answers, because again they're trying to push their own desires, their own evil thoughts, and they follow their own desires. They really don't, as Allah says, doesn't matter what proof or evidences you give them through the Quran or what refutation, they're still going to hold the belief of disbelief, because that's that Allah has misguided them. And some atheists may say, well then it's not my fault. I've heard them say this. They're like, "Well, it's not my fault that I'm a ex-Muslim or apostate. It's because Allah hasn't guided me." No, Allah says in the Quran that the reason why Allah misguides them is because of their sins. They want to live a sinful life, and because of that, Allah leaves them in their darkness. They want to live the desires of the West. They want to take off their hijab. They want to live that liberal lifestyle. They probably want to watch pornography, and they want to have sex with whoever they want to have sex with outside marriage. And so they don't want to have the boundaries of Islam, where it says you should get married. You want to have sex? Yeah, okay. Well, you can do it in a halal way. You can get married, but no, they want to be promiscuous. They just want to have sex with whoever they want to have sex with. But yeah, she wants to taint sex jihad, sex Islam, and sex. She wants to turn it into sex slavery. But you go have a look, honestly, at their worldview. They got sex bars, brothel bars, strip clubs all over the place. You want to talk about sex slaves and perversion and all this sort of stuff. Everything is built upon sex in their own hemisphere. You go look at the Western lifestyle, and they have orgies, group orgies, and then they want to complain about 72 virgins and all this stuff. So, but yeah. Anyway, a lot more can be said, of course, but we'll leave it at that. Thank you for